Welcome back to another Sporting 160EN podcast number 17. And today I have with me Denny. Hey, Denny, how you doing?
I'm good, bro. Glad to be back for another podcast after the derby yesterday. Can't wait to kick this off.
Great. Nandinho, how you doing, Nandinho?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me once again, guys. It's great, like always, and I'm more than excited to talk about that derby match. So let's get it started.
Okay, Nando, now you're part of the team.
Absolutely. And I keep, you know what it is, man? Is I keep forgetting that I'm part of it. So it's a habit, man. But I love you guys, anyways.
I got you, brother. And last but not least, our friend from the UK, which is now in the UK, 1:15 in the morning. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm good. Still quite alert, so I'm ready to spit some truth bombs on the game and whatnot. And yeah, thanks for having me once again.
Okay, again, you too, you're part of the team now. So you're not, we're not inviting you anymore. You're part of the team. So let's get it going on and let's talk about the game, the derby from yesterday, which was a great one. Benfica won, Sporting won, and the lineup was the following: we had Salah at goalkeeper. The right back was Stefan Ritovski. Then the center backs we had El Patron Coates. André Pinto was a substitution for Mathieu. He was hurt on Friday, muscular injury. Left back we had Jefferson. Midfield we had as the number 8 Bruno Fernandes. Then we had Bataglia number 6 Acuna. He played midfield, a different position for him, but in my opinion, he played quite well. We had Rafinha, Freddy Montero up front, and Nani. And I will call out the lineup also for Benfica, since it's a derby. We had as goalkeeper Vlaco Dimos. Then we had Alexandre Grimaldo, Jardel, Ruben Dias, André Almeida, Pizzi, Feja, Jetson Fernandes, Servi, Facundo Ferreira, and Rafa. So, without any further delays, Denny, I'll let you go first. What did you think of the game yesterday?
Yeah, I thought the game, it was a hard-fought match for both sides. I think where maybe Benfica could have, more people would say Benfica dominated the game. I think tactically we were even. I think we set up to sort of have a Jose Mourinho type game, absorb as much pressure as we can, and then hit them on the counterattacks. And early on, it was working very well. My only maybe complaints, and I think it was Peseira's as well, and even the players probably felt it was we weren't efficient enough. We didn't trouble the goalkeeper enough when going forward, but we were going forward, and we were going forward with intent. One thing that I loved about this Sporting compared to the Sportings of years past, especially under JJ, was that our attack, at least in this game, it seemed purposeful. We weren't holding ball just to, keep more possession so we can say that after the game, it was a hard 1-1 draw and we had more possession and blah, blah, blah. No, we attacked. We went with purpose. Every time we attacked, we looked threatening. Every time we attacked, especially in the first half, I felt we could have scored the goal. We were very gritty, and we showed that right from the off as well. I loved the little foul right on the second or third minute against Feja to show Benfica like, hey, we're here. We're not here to fuck around or anything like that. And then the second half came, more of the same. We attacked well. Ruben Dias gave us a penalty. He basically handed it to us. Clear penalty, in my opinion. He comes in from the back, doesn't get the ball. I think there's nothing else to say. I was at Casa do Sporting here in Toronto. There were some Benfica fans there, and not for nothing, they were also agreeing with us that easily a penalty. I think the ref for the most part had a decent game. I think he had bad calls for both sides. I can make the argument that more so towards Sporting, especially after the 1-0, but whatever, I won't go there. I think he had a decent game. But then after the 1-0 is when we really, in my opinion, fell short. Peseiro, he didn't necessarily learn from years past. And I don't understand his mentality, especially from a coach that is more than likely not going to be here next year unless he wins the league. I don't understand why he doesn't necessarily go for it. I understand the Petrovic for Bruno Fernandes substitution, as it's true. Bruno Fernandes was really going missing in the game. But what I don't understand after is the time it took to make a second and third substitution when it was clear that we were lacking on the counterattacks that were so good for us throughout the entire game. It was clear that Nani, though had a great game, was getting tired. He's not the Nani of old. He's not the Nani that was first year at Sporting or even the second time at Sporting. He's a 31-year-old Nani. He needs more protection, especially as our captain. I think that Jovan or Matheus Pereira on the bench would have helped us tremendously to link up play. My only criticism towards this game was that I think Peseiro lacked the courage to really go out and try to kill the game. It's just that they cut us open after. Nothing we can say about João Felix's header. It was a wall cross. The kid is a stud. I hope eventually sooner, very soon, Benfica just sells him to one of Jorge Mendes's teams for 15-20 million, because the faster he's gone from Benfica, the better. I do like the kid a lot. It's a shame to say that he's from Benfica though, but yeah, and then of course we have to talk about Salin, who I'm so happy he proved me wrong. Before the game, I was calling on Renan to get a starting spot because Salin seemed a little weak last game against Stubal when coming out for the ball. Let's not forget Stubal's only goal came from a mistake from him. But Salin showed his class, and he showed his experience. He fit into this derby as if he's been playing at this top level for years. He was flying. He made a crucial 6 to 7 saves where, it might have been an arm length away, but he still had to go and grab it. He showed muita raça, muita garra from him yesterday. So I'm very pleased with Salin. And yeah, he was my man of the match. And I think if we look at the game as a whole, I think 1-1 is a just result. But I really feel that Peseiro really dropped the ball on us, really let us down with the substitutions. Once we won 1-0, we looked like a different team, and it was upsetting to see us drop so deep and be so afraid after taking the game and really going in with the game plan, sticking with it. It's just the same. It's just a shame we didn't stick with it after the 1-0. And yeah, that's my thoughts on yesterday's game.
Well, I agree with most of everything you said, and we'll talk about the substitutions because that was a hot topic. I believe he was too late in with the substitution as well. So, Nando, you next. Give me your thoughts.
Hey, man. Like you just said, I agree with a lot of what was just said. There's no point in me repeating a lot of it. I'm going to kind of focus a little bit on a couple key points of that game and where I think we went wrong. First, I think that we played by far our best game of the year. Even with that being said, even though the first half was obviously our best half period of the season, that first half was fantastic. If that first half can be duplicated going forward, I think we're going to end up the season pleasantly surprised. Now, with that being said, the second half was night and day for me. The second half, even up to the point of the goal, that was a penalty that was gifted to us. When I say gifted, I don't mean a bad call. There was no reason why Benfica's player should have even tried to go for that. I mean, in my opinion, they could have gone away with just a strong shoulder to shoulder, and then I don't even think we would have scored that. But good thing for us, he did what he did. We scored the goal. But up to that point, starting the second half, Sporting really wasn't doing much. I think we had like one or two solid counters. After Benfica scored, we fell asleep. And I'll touch bases on the subs here in a little bit as well. I think we all have a lot to say about that. First half, we played really well. We had a couple decent opportunities. Overall, I don't think that our opportunities were as flagrant or like as obvious as Benfica's opportunities. I really don't think Benfica's goalie had many actual hands-on saves that kept the ball from going in. I think a lot of our opportunities were like, if he got there a little sooner, or if that ball was a little bit more on target, like that Acuna breakaway, then I think that could have put some more danger at their goal. But I think that the vast majority of our offensive opportunities in the first half came from two things. I think it came from a very inspired Nani. I think that he played his best game of the year by far, especially the first half. Again, like was just said, he gets tired. He's not what he used to be, but he did have his best game, in my opinion, of the year. I think the fact that Rafinha started, I think that was a pleasant surprise. I think that was a player that Benfica wasn't expecting to come on right from the get-go. A lot of trouble for Benfica, both midfield-wise and defensively, because a guy that fast, you have to respect it, because he's going to help defensively and he's also going to attack. With that being said, we pretty much played off of the high-pressure counter. That's kind of the strategy most big teams do when they go to the other opponent's stadium. I wasn't expecting much different than that. However, the second half really, really, really aggravated me. We get the goal. We had everything to continue to press, everything to continue to play that counterattack, and everything to get away there with 3 points. My opinion, Peseiro completely blew it. I think Peseiro clenched up. I think he got nervous. He got stressed. And he went into that whole a tie is better than a loss, obviously. And we're winning. Worst case scenario, they score. We leave here with a tie. I hate that mentality. This is the 21st century soccer. Most coaches do that crap, and I don't understand it. Sporting had guys on the bench, more than capable of being able to come in, and keep the pressure going. When you bring in a Petrovic, you're basically telling the other team, listen, do what you got to do. Attack us. We're just going to keep trying to clear the ball. That guy's not going to move. That guy's is literally a cone. We've talked about it. He's slow. His job is just to clear the ball and, create havoc in the midfield and keep it moving. Yeah, I think we could have left there with 3 points. I think it would have been one of those games where Benfica would have said, hey, man, look, we destroyed you. Your goalkeeper was on point. I don't think they would, as a whole, they destroyed us. No, first half could have gone either way. Second half, they did. Man of the match, like was said, Salah. Salah was incredible. He kept us in the game when it was 0-0, and he kept it 1-0 in our favor the most he could. And there's not much you could say about that. You want your goalie to do that. But those subs and that mentality, the defensive mentality, second half, especially after Benfica gets the 1-1, or I should say not after they get the 1-1, but after we get the 1-0, we fell back, we fell asleep, and we invited them to tie the game. Overall, though, the tie's a tie. Obviously, I'll take that over a loss. It was at their stadium. But hopefully something to build going forward with that first half. That's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, sounds good. So now we have Patrick, last but not least, all the way from the UK. Tell me, buddy, how did you guys see it from all the way from the United Kingdom?
Yeah, personally, I'm quite pleased with the result, with the point. I think Peseiro read the situation quite well coming into the game, because there's no hiding the fact that Benfica's preparation and in terms of a method to their game, they've got that all set out. And Sporting have had a turbulent pre-season, and Peseiro still finding his feet with the squad. So it made sense for Sporting to come into this game quite tight and expect a reaction as well from Benfica, who had just drawn to PAOK in the Champions League qualifier. I think Peseiro got it spot on, and it proved. I think that the first half was very good from Sporting. Acuna's introduction into midfield was very good because it provided an extra runner on the counter attack, and also someone who's very tenacious in the middle of the park alongside Battaglia. And Benfica didn't like that at all. They didn't like how in their face we got, and much of Benfica's moments in that half within open play was them complaining about the referee and whatnot, which I think the referee was personally quite decent. But yeah, I think our plan was working quite well, and the only thing that was missing from that first half, in my eyes, was Sporting materialising one of those counters that they managed to get and taking a goal from that half as well. Second half was obviously a lot slower. Obviously, you have to give credit as well to Salah, who kept us in it. Sometimes when you are as conservative as we were, you need your keeper to do their job, and I think Salah did his quite well. Made 2 or 3 top saves, and others that you're going to expect your goalkeeper to make as well. But yeah, I think it was just an option that Sporting took. I know a lot of people are saying Benfica dominated that game, but I think Sporting just decided, right, we're going to decide to control the game in our way and watch the game be played out in front of us, sit tight and pick our chances. That's more or less how we got our goal, via the penalty, attacking the spaces. And, from the point where we go 1-0 up, obviously we'll talk about the subs, I'm sure, as we go on. But Peseiro was stuck between two decisions, essentially. He could have either replenished the squad and done like for likes and perhaps even stolen a second, or done the natural thing, which I think was to bring on a defensive midfielder. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't have that many options in that position. It had to be Petrovic, and being the player that he is, perhaps it's more or less confirmed that he is below par for a team like Sporting's. It essentially invited pressure onto us, and Benfica got their equaliser. But all in all, a point is decent, and we came into this game as complete underdogs in the eyes of many. So we'll take that. We'll join it next to our other 6 points. 7 points is an okay start for a team that was riddled with problems. So it's not too bad at all in my eyes.
Okay, great. So we're gonna talk about some key moments of the game. Danny, who was your MVP of the game?
I think unanimously we'll all agree. I think Salah definitely gets man of the match MVP. Made some crucial saves, like Patrick said, but also made some saves that he had to make. I think without him, the 1-1 maybe wouldn't have stayed intact. But also a special mention to Nani, who I think had a really good game. Acuna as well had a really good game in a position where he's not used to, or at least not accustomed to playing to. And then of course Coates, who I think was our leader in the back line. Almost every Benfica attack, he was thereabouts, winning tackles, getting the ball, doing what Coates loves doing nowadays, it seems, and at least once a game, getting the ball from defense and trying to bring it out from the back himself, which is always it's always nice seeing that from a center back that wants to push the team forward. But yeah, sorry, MVP goes to Salam, but definitely special mentions to Coates, Nani, and Acuna to me.
Okay, great. So just to give you a really quick recap, Salah had a great save at the 6th minute, 18th minute, 20th minute, 21st minute, 52nd minute, 70th minute, 71st minute, and 90 plus 6 minute. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 great saves. So you all watched the game, so you know what I'm talking about. We don't have to go in detail to that, but that's why for me he's also the MVP. Nando, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot because I know you're an expert in this field. Which one was the worst player of the game?
The worst player.
I told you.
Tough, man. Okay, so for me,
I know.
It's tough as hell.
I don't want to make it easy for you.
I bad. I think that a player that I wish would have done a better job would have been Jefferson. I think Jefferson continues to kind of tread water, in my opinion, in that position. I think that he kind of knows that sooner or later his position is probably going to be, he's going to be replaced there. He seemed like a weak link in my point in terms of not being able to continue with Nani up that left side. I think a lot of times we saw Cunha falling back and doing what we have seen him do, which is quite impressive given that he's not a native left back. But Jefferson, in my opinion, if he was a much more, I should say, courageous player like Rivstovsky was, or had either one or the other, either chosen to defend a little more or attacked a little more, I think in the second half he kind of ended in that no man's land. He was kind of caught in that midfield area, not quite knowing whether or not to continue the attack or push for a counter or either just fall back and play defensively. In my opinion, I think that he could have done better, or maybe he's just kind of capped out there. That's as good as it gets for him now going forward. But the whole team in general, I think, played okay. We talked about players that played great. I think as a whole, we played okay. I think that he was probably the weakest link, though.
Okay, got you. Thanks for your input. So, Patrick, this one will not be any easier. Which one was the play that you were expecting more from him, except for Jefferson? Jefferson, we all agreed that he could have done better. The other 10 players, which one were you expecting more from him?
Well, it has to be Bruno Fernandes for me. I think he was.
No, exactly. Thank you. I was thinking the same thing.
He's obviously a key player for Sporting, and in those situations with Sporting where trying to break and look for a reference, I think Bruno Fernandes would have been the perfect guy to influence the game a bit more. But obviously, there was the post, I think this morning or late last night, showing his ankle that was swollen, and I just wonder. Obviously, the Sporting were very intense yesterday in the way that they played. They really got stuck in. I just wonder whether with that injury he perhaps thought and didn't really fancy it, because usually Bruno Fernandes is a player who himself is quite intense and he gets stuck into what he does. We would have benefited with his presence alongside Bataglia and Acuna in the midfield. He was a lot closer to Montero, but he didn't see much of the ball. He didn't really look for the ball as much as as much as you'd expect anyway. So without a doubt, to me, I think he was the biggest disappointment. Obviously, I'll give him a bit of leeway because he has picked up a knock. But yeah, that was the player that was missing for us.
But just before we move on, just real quick, just to jump on that, I was going to say Bruno. The reason why I didn't is because I think that early in the game, I think it was pretty clear that Benfica did what they needed to do to kind of neutralize him, to kind of take him out of his rhythm. I think there was a couple times in that game that they jumped on him, kind of fouled him hard. He seems like he's not very strong mentally. I think we'd all agree with that. And he had several moments in that game that he was already getting pissed off at fouls he felt should have been a yellow or fouls that weren't called. And I think that Benfica kind of did a good job of removing him from the game, knowing how important he is, and he's probably arguably our best player. But he obviously wasn't up to par. I totally agree.
We all realize that we play on a 4-3-3, so Bruno Fernandes was playing a different position as well.
Correct. He wasn't he wasn't set up for success.
Yeah.
Our style was very counter, which it did well for counter, but it didn't do good for his style of play.
Got it. So he was playing as a number 8, not as a number 9. So that's significant of a change, and I think that's why he didn't play as well. Okay, so let's move on. So, Danny, again, another tough question. Luis Godinho, the referee of the match, how was his performance?
He was decent. Listen, I don't want to say he had a good refereeing. I don't want to say he was bad either. I think there was few calls even on Benfica's side that they could have gotten. But I feel a bit hard done by the ref, especially towards the end of the game. Especially when Benfica were chasing the 1-0. Anytime we would go for the counterattack, we would get fouled. There was one, I can't remember on who it was. I just remember it was Ruben Dias literally tossing, I think it was Nani, but it could be Rafinha. I could be wrong. but I remember he tossed them to the floor. Hands were out and everything. Ref didn't give it. Benfica goes on the other end for a counterattack. I feel when the referee knew how to handle the situation a bit, seeing that it's a derby. He let the game be physical. He didn't show too many yellows. But at the same time, I feel like maybe he let the physicality go on too long or too much, or he went too far with it. I think Ristovski's yellow, though, I know he made a guy bleed. I know he jumps with his arms out. But if you can show me anybody that jumps with their arms to their sides, any athlete that jumps with their arms to their sides trying to win a header, I'll give you $100, no problem. It doesn't happen. I think Ristovski only gets the yellow because Servi got cut somehow. I think the ref, and it's a problem with Portuguese refs, but at least this one, he had a decent game, like I said. The Portuguese refs, I think, are too afraid to make certain calls or to not make certain calls because of the situation of the game. I feel like if it wasn't 1-0, if it was 0-0, we would get a few more calls towards the end of the game. I feel like if Benfica was winning, we might have gotten a few more the calls that we deserved towards the end of the game. I feel like the Portuguese referees take the situation into account way too much rather than just the game itself, rather than just looking at the play itself. But if for that being said, like I said, he had a decent game. If I had to give him a rating, probably like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 for me.
Okay, sounds good. Now, Nanda, let's jump into the substitutions, which a lot of Sportinguistas they say it was kind of late when he made the first substitution, which was at the 79th minute. He basically took out Bruno Fernandes, and in his place, Petrovic came in. Would you do it differently? And if you did, at what time of the game would you do your first substitution, and with whom?
Awesome. So yeah, that really pissed me off, man. Give me a quick recap on that bench, because I know we had Lucas Steinus, we had Petrovic, obviously, and I'm drawing a blank on a few of the other guys. But as like, go ahead.
We had Ribeiro. Sorry, we had Ribeiro. We had Bruno Gaspar. Sorry, Renan Ribeiro, the goalie. Bruno Gaspar, Petrovic, Wendell, Mateus Pereira, Lucas Steinus, and Giovanni. Cabral.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Perfect. I appreciate you guys. I was drawing a blank. So obviously, right off the bat, I think that substitution, Bruno for Petrovic, I think was just poorly done. In general, I think that a player, Bruno's mental stability right now, I think that it would have almost been a vote of confidence to him that maybe it would have been exploited better if he had stayed on just a little longer, shown him, because players feed off of that. I think that if you're going to take somebody out at that point, I think you take out an Acuna instead of a Bruno Fernandes at that first sub, and you bring in a guy like Wendell. I think Wendell, we saw him warming up on the sidelines. We've been calling for him pretty much all season. We want to see what this guy can do. I think bringing in a guy like that shows competence in the fact that he's going to be able to defend, because we know that he can come back. He's not as strong or as defensive-minded as Petrovic, but it also lets Benfica know, hey, you guys can't just play forward, pushing without any kind of consequence, because a guy like Wendell is going to move the ball up the field with a lot more ability, a lot more tactic, obviously, than a guy like Petrovic is going to do. I think that if you're going to go defensive, you wait until if it's still 1-0, obviously you're not going to push and push forward at the 89th minute, 88th, and bring in just, attacking guys at that point. But at that time of the game, I think that we kind of messed with Benfica a little bit. I think we showed them, look, we're winning. We're not worried. We're scared if you guys push it forward. You're going to have to respect our ability. And I think that Petrovic sub was awful right there. Obviously, the last sub of the game, I think, was Lucas Steinus. Really towards the end, I think that's just a wash. It's just to kill time. And none of us expect him to be any kind of real solution. At least I don't think, bench-wise. I think the fact that we finally brought in, we had a Mateus Pereira, we have Giovanni Cabral, we have those guys there. I think Bruno Gaspar was second that came in, right?
Yes.
And he came in at the
minute 90.
90th also. So like another, just to kill some time right there. I think that bringing him in earlier for a Rafinha, would have kept again Benfica, because if you guys were watching, they were killing those crosses into the box, hoping for the typical foul, the typical free kick, the typical handball. So bringing in a guy like that would have allowed them to slow down a little bit. It would have forced them to slow down. I shouldn't say allow them, force them to slow down, because they have to respect that. That's a guy with some speed as well. We all kind of seen his highlights, know what he can do, or at least have our expectations of what he can do. But I think those substitutions were just so poorly done. I think it literally it basically said, Rivitoria, listen, we got the 1-0. Let's just see how long we can hold on, and let's see what you can do. And that really pissed me off. You can't go the rest of that game, 30 minutes or a little less than 30 minutes, and just hope for the best and expect the worst. And I think that mentality was, let's hope for the best. We're going to expect the worst. Worst case scenario, we lose. But if we can just manage a 1-1 draw, we'll be heroes going back to Alvalade. That to me, maybe you guys have a different opinion on it. I'd love to hear it, but that to me really threw me off. And Bruno Fernandes could have stayed another 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, bring him out at the 80th. At that point, maybe Sporting has a 2-0 win. Then go ahead and bring in the guys that are going to just, foul the guys at midfield, partir o jogo, and just scrape out those last 10 minutes. And that's kind of my thought process there.
Okay, sounds good. Now, Patrick, I'm going to put you on the spot. Your name is no longer Patrick. Your name is José Peseiro, okay? Yeah. So his substitutions were in minute 79, Bruno Fernandes for Petrovic, minute 90, Rafinha for Bruno Gaspar, and then Freire Montero for Castaños. So now you, Peseiro, I want you to give me your three substitutions, and at whatever time you think it would have been the correct time, and whatever players you desire.
Okay, so first candidate is going to be the player that obviously most of us were a bit let down by, which was Bruno Fernandes. He would have been the first player off for me, and I probably would have taken him off around about the 60th, 65th minute, roughly when we scored the penalty. And this is the tricky bit, because obviously Sporting were playing based on two factors, being defensively astute and energetic, essentially. And what Peseiro decided to do was go for the early defensive midfielder that he had and try to close out the game at 1-0.
Agreed.
I can't really blame him too much for that. That's just the option that he had. Petrovic is the only defensive midfielder he had there. But perhaps I would have been a little bit more daring and gone for Vendel, because then you do need, like, we have to remember how much Sporting put into that performance, especially in the first half. So it was only natural that, as you say, Rafinha, who hasn't had much first team football, and Nani, who's 31 now, and Freire Montero, who worked his socks off, of course, as well. These players are going to get tired, so you need someone extra that can join in the attack and help get out of your own half, essentially. And I think that man would have been Vendel. I think I'll bring on Vendel just past the hour mark for Bruno Fernandes. And I wouldn't even save any substitutions for like the 90th and 92nd to break up play and waste a bit of time as well. I think Sporting needed those changes, pre the 80th minute. And the two most likely candidates to come off are Nani and Rafinha, who was absolutely, finished. He had a great game, but he worked so hard. But really, in the second half, he ran out of gas completely. And so the two players I bring on for those two are the obvious ones, which is Jovan Cabral and Mateus Pereira. I think that way Sporting would have, you bring fresh legs and you remain a little bit more threatening on the counter attack. Sporting completely lost the threat on the counter. And
so Giovanni Cabral for Rafinha and Mateus Pereira for Nani.
Yeah, and obviously I'd have Cabral on the left and Mateus Pereira on the right. So coming in. Yeah, and I think that's what was needed. Because if you have no attack, then obviously, and especially with someone like Petrovic coming in, what that says is, come at us. You're inviting pressure, and that's a dangerous thing to do sometimes. It's the logical thing, but it's also a dangerous thing to do late on, and that's how teams tend to concede goals. So that's my way around it, and trying to maintain a 1-0 lead and perhaps even making it 2-0, snatching a 2-0 lead. Those are the changes I probably would make in hindsight, obviously.
I totally agree with you, and I'll give you my 2 cents since we'll finish, talking about the game. We started very well on the first half, full steam, but I was watching the game. I was like, you know what, we're gonna run out of gas, and that's what happened. The team in the second half, they were exhausted. People forget, but our preseason was poorly planned. And I'm not using this as an excuse. This was only our 3rd official game. Benfica already has 6 official games, and some of those games, it's a high-level competition at the Champions League competition. So they have a different rhythm than we do, and we're still scrambling to put a team together. We all know that Bas Dost didn't play. We haven't spoken about him, but, him being on the pitch, it would have been different. Benfica would have been more careful playing defense. Viviano, even though Salan, he's been playing phenomenal, didn't play. And then at the last minute, Mathieu, one of our best center backs, didn't play. Then our midfield is still a mess. We still don't have a good fit for the number 8 position. And like Patrick said, and I agree with you, Peseiro opted to play more defensively. And that was the mode we played. And I think that was the only mode we could play. But the substitutions, I would have done exactly what Patrick said. I would have been more daring as well. And I would have put Wendo and Mateus Pereira and Jovan Cabral. Now, Danny, you back on the scene. Again, this
really
is...
quick. Can I just really quick say something?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Sorry.
Bye.
Because I agree with everything that you guys have said as well. I think that he had to go a bit more defensive. I agree with that. I'm not even necessarily too upset with the Petrovic for Bruno Fernandes, because I think it was Patrick that said earlier, what other option do we have on the bench as a center defensive midfielder? It would have been nice having somebody better. But if your only option is Petrovic, I agree, you play him. I agree that Bruno Fernandes lost the influence of the game. He wasn't up to par, and even on attacking-wise, he wasn't going forward with the ball and helping us move forward. Defensively, he wasn't helping. So I'm cool with Petrovic coming in. My only criticism towards José Peseiro is, 1, that took a bit too long, but 2 is that he didn't think about after us going forward. He didn't see that Nani could no longer go with the rhythm of the game, could no longer handle the like I said, the rhythm of the game. How Jovan Cabral coming in, stretching Benfica wider, or having Benfica at least have maybe one more player back so that they don't commit too much, would have helped us out. Even stretching the game even more with Jovan Cabral on the wing and Mateus Pereira. I agree with you guys on that term. My only quarrel between José Peseiro is and how he managed the game was the substitutions came too late, and the substitutions, of course, in hindsight, but the substitutions were completely wrong, and he should have seen earlier that Nani and Rafinha were no longer giving that same, weren't providing us the same things that they were providing us, especially in the first half and in the beginning of the second half, and he should have, still keeping the defensive core, should have pushed forward for us a bit more as well. He should have had that in mind. But yeah, that's just to bounce off the same ideas or my opinions on what was just said.
No, that's cool. I agree. Quem tem cu tem medo, and I think José Peseiro teve medo. Yeah, he didn't dare to put Jovan Cabral, which is in a phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
he would have killed them because they were exhausted themselves.
Yeah.
So
he didn't have the courage to while defend, still make positive substitutions.
He was holding on to the 1-0, and then at the end
and praying,
where we wasted so much time. We did a great job in wasting time the last 6 minutes. A phenomenal job, actually, which I'm so against that, but sometimes it's needed. So Danny, since you butt in, I'm gonna skip you. Now I'm going straight to Nando. So I want everyone. Hey, I want everyone to have the same minute.
Of course.
Yeah, Nando, 60-second minute. Was that a PK from Ruben Diaz against Montero?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that we're all going to pretty much agree that that's a PK. It's just a matter of how much or how passionate we are that that's a PK. I think Ruben Diaz has shown us that he's brutal. He's kind of sloppy. He's kind of all over the place. He's shown us that, as good as of a player he can be, he abuses his strength and he gets away with a lot of calls that don't get called against Benfica. I was very surprised that they called it. I thought they would have said that Montero didn't have enough possession of the ball or had enough opportunity to get a good goal opportunity. But in my view, that's a very well called penalty. And I'm satisfied that the referee had the courage to do that. That doesn't tend to be a thing at Benfica Stadium, especially in a derby or a clásico, whatever the game. But yeah, I think it was well called. I hope that more referees call things against Ruben Diaz, because I think he's gone away with a lot of sloppy challenges and just being very, very sloppy in general.
Okay, sounds good, Patrick.
Yeah,
João. No. Another question. João Felix. He's 19 years old. A great player from Benfica. I've seen him play in the under-19. He's up and coming. I have to recognize this guy will be a superstar one day. At minute 86, he scored a header. Whose fault was that from the defense?
It's tricky, but you do have to look at Jefferson's overall positioning and how he completely loses the path of I think is it Rafa who does the dart and run across to the right?
Yes.
He completely loses that and facilitates that. It's a weakness in his game. It's not uncommon for us to see week in, week out a winger dart ahead of Jefferson and find that space on our left. So from there, obviously, you got to look at Jefferson's positioning, unfortunately, and as soon as that ball is found and the cross comes in, you can't really put too much blame on anyone else. I saw a lot of blame go towards Rostovski, who perhaps would have tracked João Felix's run at the back post. But when that pass is made and all of a sudden everyone's got to run back, it's a bit panicky. And so you have to allow an element of error to creep into those players that are in the box ready to defend. So in that situation, I put most of the blame on Jefferson. But, it happens, and especially with Jefferson, you sort of have to take it. It's part of his flaw as a fullback. And that's that, really.
Okay, yeah. For me, it's a split. It's between Kovac and Ritovski. They should have been there, but it was a really fast play. So let's move on now. Danny, since you didn't cut off anybody this time, now it's your turn. So this is something I know you're not gonna like it, but tough luck. You Canadian, so handle it. What can I tell you?
All right.
Okay, Sousa Sintra and Artur Torres Ferreira.
Ai, com caralho.
Exactly. They. I'm not gonna give my opinion because you don't want to hear it. But they gave an interview on BTV. So, what did you think about that? I know.
I sympathize with them. I sympathize with them a little bit. I understand, they're Sousa Sintra's a nice guy. He said os cores do Benfica e do Sporting fazem a bandeira nacional.
Yep.
All nice and dandy. But let's keep in mind this is the same team that months ago wanted to take a situation happening at this club. As well, they came out in full support to Sporting, which of course I'm talking about Porto, a rival nonetheless. But there's certain ways to handle certain things, and the way that Benfica, more in particular, came out and said how he wanted to take advantage of it, I think we shouldn't have been so friendly with them. Let's also keep in mind this is still a club that still chants about deaths of our fans. This is still a rival club. I'm not saying that we should be full out in war with them like we have been in years past. I definitely think maybe we should mend a bit of the feud between the two clubs, but at the same, I think that we should still realize certain things that took place in recent history, and not do them any favors and not come out and say certain things. I just think we need to be a bit more careful for how we handle situations. I think there's nothing wrong with not going and not saying anything. I think sometimes saying nothing is maybe a bit better than saying something. You know what I mean? Saying nothing says a bit more than sometimes saying things. So I think I down with them and sympathize with them. I'm definitely not happy with what I've seen yesterday from Sosa Sintra and others.
Guys, I'm gonna have to jump in, even if that means I lose some antenna time here in just a second.
Força, meu.
I have to, because this one's been bothering me. Just the whole thing that's been playing out, man. And I'm so happy you asked, okay? Because I almost brought back Twitter just so I can respond to that. But here's the thing, man. We forget, just like we've said now and the weeks prior, that Benfica has had every intention of pretty much screwing Sporting over completely going into the season. So we know they wanted to do that. I think the reason why they haven't done that is not so much because Luis Vieira, she had a change of heart. I think it was more of they couldn't do that. I think that players either chose not to go there, or they didn't like the offer, or like the turmoil that would have created in their lives if they were already stressed as is. I think everybody here has probably read what Paulo Futre apparently said, right? That he said that the Benfica, that apparently Luis Vieira was told Sousa Sintra he wasn't going to do anything after Sousa Sintra was took over. I think that's kind of BS on my thought process. But I think that us going over there into the presidential box and getting accepting some stupid medal that Benfica chose to give us, I think that only makes Benfica look better. I think it makes us look weak. I think it makes us look exactly like the media has wanted us to look. And I think that Sousa Sintra ate that up. I think that Sousa Sintra loved that attention of being the guy who's like, oh, look at me, man. I'm here in the tribuna and it's a Sporting Benfica game. It's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal, because here's the thing. Porto and Pinto Costa have been at war with Benfica ever since Pinto Costa took over. And Porto, say what you want, whether it's been completely 100% legit or not, they've been dominating Portuguese soccer until the last maybe 5 years, and they're still very much in a better trajectory than Sporting is. And Pinto Costa didn't get there by shaking hands with Benfica president and sending them a bouquet of flowers and medals and inviting them over to their press box. Soccer. We don't need to sit here and incentivize violence, but we don't also need to sit here and act like we're just going to quickly get pushed over and immediately forget what their president said. That's my 2 cents on it, man. That kind of pissed me off. It was very unnecessary, and on top of that, it wasn't just Sousa Sintra. It was the other 2 dudes that we hate, or that the majority of us hate, that was there with him. It was just that little squad, those 3 stooges, man. And it's so I don't know, man. To me, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and it just looks embarrassing. It looks like we've got no backbone.
Yep.
Well,
I agree.
well, I'm going to say something about that too. Me personally, I think we should have good relations with every team in the world, not only the Portuguese league but all the teams. But of course, a team that or an institution or not the institution, the president that represents that team in the time being, in this case, Luis Vieira, because I look at Benfica as an institution as a respectful institution. I mean, they were founded in 1904, and they deserve my respect. But this president of Benfica, like you said, I have no respect for him. I have a lot of good Benfiquista friends, and they know how I feel about him. Like they didn't like Bruno Carvalho, for example. Um, they had the other presidents from Benfica that I respected a lot, but this president, indeed, I think he's corrupted. And indeed, I think he tries to win in other ways, not inside the box, the rectangular. And that's why I don't like him that much. If we go back to his personal affairs, he owes money to everybody. He was caught in corruption in his companies. So he's not someone that's looked upon as a role model. But with that said, I think Sporting must maintain his chin up and get along with everybody. But the interview yesterday was embarrassing because the background was an eagle, and he's the president of Sporting Club Portugal, so
And he's
it
taking
looked
that
really
medal.
bad. Yeah, all he should, what he could have done more carefully would be, hey, I don't, no, all due respect, but can we pick another background? Because I can't. I'm
Yeah.
the president of Sporting Portugal. That's not a lion. That's an eagle. So can we just change the setting? I don't mind saying a couple words. I agree that we should maintain the good relations, and that we should do things like we say in Portuguese, morrer pela calada, behind closed doors. That will taste even better later when we get them closed doors. Why do we need to be so vocal? Why do we need to say, "Epa, slixo os lampiões"? We don't need to be machistas, and we don't need to be so vocal. We can do things in a classy way behind closed doors, and we still will get them. Us making a lot of noise and fireworks, that's all it is. It's fireworks. Nothing happens. So let's do things in a more silent way, but in a killing way, silently, and then we'll get there. I think Sportingistas sometimes we kind of run out of patience, and we just have to be a little more political and a little more malicious in a silent way, and then we'll get there. That's my take on it. I didn't like the background at all. That's what threw me off. I thought he was elected for president of Benfica or something. Um, but without any further delays, Patrick, you've been really quiet. Now I'm going to ask you about the a new player that we just acquired, Diaby. What are you expecting from him?
He's a player who can obviously play from the left flank or up front as well. So he's a quick player. His goal record is a bit scattered. Sometimes he's on a good streak. Other times he's not, coming from the Belgian league. But in terms as a player, it's a different option to have. With regards to Dost, we know what Dost is like. He's a target man, but he's not the fastest. Diaby might be able to maybe even combine with Dost in a 4-4-2 or play instead of him in games where we've got space in behind the defence and he can exploit that. It's an interesting option to have. Let's see how he settles in the Portuguese league. I do think we'll probably sign another striker to come in, so I don't know whether Poseido's perhaps planning to play him from the left like he has played at earlier stages in his career. Yeah, quick player to add to our front line. Should certainly offer us more than what Castaños does. So it's a little bit of a positive, but let's see how he settles.
Okay. Danny, what can we expect from Gudelj, and which position will he play?
I think from the little I've seen of him, at least on his time of at Ajax or Ajax, whatever, I think he's a decent ball playing midfielder. He can play number 6. He has the physicality for it. But he also, I think his strong suit is his distribution of the ball, his movement on and off the ball. So I think he'll definitely play as an 8 beside Battaglia, which is, or Battaglia more as a 6, which I think Battaglia benefits from a lot. If we remember when last year William Carvalho would sort of play the more ball distributing on the ball sort of presence in midfield, whereas Battaglia would sort of try to clean up mess. If not William, it was Brian Ruiz for a little bit. So I think I think and I hope that's what we're going for with the signing of how is it? Is it Gudelj? Gudelli?
I think it's Gudelli.
Gudelli? Yeah, I think.
I'm gonna start calling him. I'm gonna start Petrovic.
I'm gonna just calling him like G or Gu or whatever, or Nemanja. As
long as you don't call him G string. Go ahead.
Hey, maybe, who knows? But no, yeah. I think he'll play more as an 8. But I think he can still do a job at 6. Say if we want to play with 2 in the midfield, him and Bruno Fernandes maybe can do a job. But yeah, I'm excited. This is one of the signings. The one of the signings that I'm more enthusiastic about. I think Diaby's a good signing, but I think Gudelli might give us something that we've been lacking for not only this season but for seasons past. And yeah, I'm hoping he has a great start with his life here at Sporting.
Okay, sounds good. So now we're back to Nando. What do you think about the acquisition of Nicola Sansoni?
Honestly, man, I don't have much of an opinion on him as I haven't followed much of his career, to be honest with you. So I don't want to, start speculating or saying things that I don't have much of done research on him. I think it's another acquisition. I think it could go. Hopefully, we expect it to be a good acquisition, mais valia, but I really don't have much of an opinion on him. I'm just going to kind of wrap around to as a whole on those 3 guys. I think we were expecting them to fill holes or at least provide a little bit more depth overall. So I apologize. I don't know too much about him. Maybe someone else could chime in and give a better opinion on the guy. I personally don't want to, bash him or make him sound to be the greatest player. I just don't know much about him. But as a whole, I think the acquisitions done so far have been done in a strategic manner, kind of hoping to catch a little lightning in the bottle, if you will. I think that out of the 3 acquisitions, I think the Diaby acquisition is the one that I think we're going to end up enjoying a lot more. I don't know if you guys remember Mapenza back in the 99-2000 year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what I thought when we got Diaby. I thought we're going to get a guy who hopefully, like Sosa Cinta said at the beginning, very fast guy. Maybe he's the fastest in the league. I don't know, but I think that we need a player like that who can spread the defense even more. In regards to the player you just asked for, maybe someone else can chime in, or maybe you have a little bit more research on him than I do. So,
okay. So, place of birth was Munich, Germany. He's actually Italian. He's a left winger, 1 meter, 73 centimeters. He started his career in Bayern Munich under 19. Then he moved on to Bayern Munich, the B team. Then in 2010-11, he went to Bayern Munich A squad. Then he was loaned to FC Crotone. Then he played at Parma. Then US Sassuolo. And then the last 3 years, 2 years, Villarreal, Spain. So he has a lot of experience. He has played for the national team of Italy, and that's why we need a left winger. I mean, if Pereira doesn't trust Jefferson, he's not giving a chance to Lumore. Might as well get another left wing, left back, left wing, and give somebody else a chance. So that's what he does. He could play left back and left wing. But that's all I have.
So that whole left corridor will kind of go to him if need be. Is what it seems to be the kind of thought process going in there.
Exactly. So let's move on. Patrick, Doumbia going to Girona, is that a good move?
Yeah, obviously Dundee is not. He's not the player that he once was. Sporting never saw that player, so it's a shame because a lot of money was invested in that, and perhaps we won't get the return that we expected.
A lot of money, yeah.
So, but that's football, and when players are around the age of Dumbia's, it's like a switch. There can be fantastic one season, and the next season the decline happens, and all of a sudden they're not so marketable. That's the danger with playing about, signing players that are deep into their late 20s and early 30s. And Sporting bite the dust here. But it's important to get a player like that off the wage bill. If he's not fancied by the manager, it's important to get him off the wage bill at least. So Sporting can at least do that. And as you say, as we just talked about, we've got some interesting players to look at if Sporting can nail the signing of Sansone, who's obviously a very interesting left winger. I believe he can play just behind the striker as well. And there was also had that Muriel Sevilla was linked with Sporting as well in the Spanish press. So there's another interesting option. Sporting, by getting rid of Doumbia, perhaps, I don't know, they have a bit of change to play with, and they can bolster the attack. But just on signings, Sansoni, I do wonder what that would mean to a guy like Cabral, or even maybe Mateus Pereira, who's the outcast in the wide areas. Perhaps that means that one or the two will be either put to the under 23s or loaned out or even sold. Who knows? I think it'd be a shame if Sporting were to let go of Mateus Pereira, for example, at the expense of Sansone or something.
Gotcha.
Even if I think Sansone is a very interesting player and certainly better than Clinton and G and players like that we were linked to previously.
Exactly, I agree with you, Danny. Now we have 4 goalies. I just want you to say keep him or let him go. That's all I need you to say, okay? Viviano, keep him or let him go?
Keep him.
Salah.
Keep him.
Renan.
Not even sure why we got him, but I guess in this case, keep him for this one season.
Maximiano.
Loan him out. He needs experience under his belt. Preferably a Portuguese team. I'm not too sure of any Portuguese teams that might need a goalie at the moment. If we can get him, a decent team. Basically, just a team that'll give him the minutes and the experience he needs, because he is a really good young keeper. I just don't think he's ready for the jump yet.
Okay, thank you. Nando, defense.
Yep. Okay,
we have Marcel. Keep on, let him go.
Oh man, keep him.
Coates, it's obvious.
Keep.
Yeah. Jefferson.
God, I want to say let him go, but because we're so not sure what we're going to do with that left back, that we have to reluctantly keep him.
Okay, unless we get somebody then.
Correct, yes. Okay. Otherwise he has to go.
Gotcha. Lumor.
Same thing, man. If we get somebody better, then maybe we can send Jefferson and let Lumor ride that bench. But it depends on who we bring in.
Or maybe give him a chance?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to giving him I'm not opposed to giving him a chance. I'm not. But somebody has to go, and most likely it would have to be Jefferson to let him do that.
And preseason he looked good, so
yeah.
He did. I think we talked about in one of the podcasts. You're right, he did.
Yeah.
Hitovsky.
No, you gotta keep him.
André Pinto.
Keep him.
Yeah, he's a good backup. Mathieu,
Keep.
of course. And last but not least, Bruno Gaspar.
You got to keep the guy. You spent the money to get him, and I think he has a lot of upside. I think we already know what he can do. I think that he hasn't shown everything he can do. So I'm not quite sure what's taking them a while to get him going, but you definitely have to keep him, especially after the money invested.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for your input. Now, Patrick, let's get to the nitty gritty of things. Which this one, it's not going to be easy for you. Battaglia,
Keep.
of course. Now, this player was being used by JJ a lot, but JJ is gone. Bruno says it.
I'd let him go.
And this guy could play left back. That's why I'm not getting Poseidon. But anyway,
Yeah.
I would let him go too because he's not using him. Because he could play left back decently, actually.
Yeah.
That's the thing that bothers me. Jefferson.
Weapon.
He's gone. He's the water boy now. Bruno Fernandes.
Got to keep him, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Petrovic.
I'd let him go.
Yeah, exactly. Let him go. We could have kept Pelinha, which scored again today for Braga.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Don't remind me, man.
No,
oh, my God.
I know. Opa, quando eu vi aquele gol, I almost...
But don't worry. We can get him back once we pay for him.
I know. We have to pay like 20% or something. I don't know. Kind of deal with that.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, vi vocês assim, ter cerveja que não tem, que foi para a falência.
Numa pizza de bêbados.
Yeah. Ryan Gold.
For the good of his career, I think it's probably best to let him go.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're not using him at all. And now, last but not least, Wendell.
He has to stay.
Okay.
Give him a chance.
Give him a chance, exactly. Okay, Danny, we going to the forward squad. So Montero.
Keep.
Acuna.
Keep. But play him as left back.
Or?
In my opinion, keep him and play him at left back. Or if you get another left back in, I'd still keep him. He's still good enough for this squad.
Or winger, or number 8, or number 6.
No, to me, he's a left back. To me, I think he did well in midfield, but he's definitely a left-sided player. I think he did well, but I don't know. I still expect something more from the number 8, in my opinion, at least.
Okay, gotcha. Mateus Pereira.
Definitely keep.
Nani.
Keep.
Okay, now it's going to get it a little bit tough for you. Carlos Mané.
I think if Stuttgart really is interested in him, we let him go.
Sell him or loan him?
Sell him, loan him. It depends. Whatever gives us the most. I don't know if he'll have a lot of market as of right now to sell, at least because of his injuries the past 2 years. But if we can loan him with an option to sign that's beneficial for us, then I say we do that.
Okay. Rafinha.
Keep him for sure.
Doumbia.
Get the fuck out of this club.
Now,
I've been saying since December.
Now, tough question. Would you let him go with the fruit basket?
I'll add a little card up top. He was nice over the summer.
A green bow or red bow?
Verde, caralho.
Okay. Diaby, of course, we're going to keep him.
You have to keep him, yeah.
Bas Dost?
Keep him.
Yeah. Giovanni Cabral?
Keep him.
Now, if we do get another forward, what kind of forward should we get? Somebody like Bas Dost or someone like Diaby?
I personally think that okay with the strikers that we have in this system, because we're not playing a 4-4-2, we're playing a 4-3-3 with only real one target, if you will. I think Bas Dost, Diaby, and Monteiro, who showed last game, he's here to say something, and I think he played very well last game. Those three are good, and then we still have Pedro Marques from who can sort of fill in that fourth spot if we get too many injuries. I don't personally. If we go after one, I think maybe the target man like Bas Dost. We have Diaby. I just mentioned him. I doubt he'll see many minutes, but Pedro Marques as well. So maybe a target man, Dost goes out, and we want to play that style. But again, I don't think we need another forward, in my opinion.
So someone like Pinheiro, somebody we can cross the ball and he can.
Yeah, we need
Exactly.
a complete poacher, man.
Yeah, that's it. It's like
I was happy when we were linked with Slimani, and I was happy with those two because styles. Bas Dost has been getting more and more injured recently, and Slimani can just easily fill in that role because that is his role. That's why Bas Dost came in and started banging. He just didn't have to restructure anything. Bas Dost just fell right in. Maybe a little tweaks here and there, but it's a target man at the end of the day, and sort of the same system that they played.
Like someone like the guy from Tondela, Tomene.
Yeah. Tomene. I hate to say it. Well, he's old, but somebody like a Dingo. There's this guy from Dijon who's Julio Tavares, plays for Cape Verde. I think that would be a cheap and a good signing if we target man, which I think, again, if we're really out there going for another forward, then we should get a guy, definitely, a Pinheiro, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. We said names, but we're not saying this is the names that we would
Exactly,
want. It's just the type of player that we would like. Pinheiro, somebody with tall guy that knows how to head the ball into the net.
Get a Peter Crouch.
Exactly.
2 meter Peter.
Yeah, the guy couldn't play with his feet, but with his head only count.
That's it, man. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you one by one. This question will be for everybody. I want you to give me your honest opinion. You've heard the debates between the 7 candidates going for president. I want you to tell me who has impressed you the most and what will be your tendency to vote for. So, Danny just spoke. I'm going with Nando. Go, Nando.
So the guy who's surprised me the most, this is going to be an interesting question for everybody. I think it's going to be Benedito. I think that, I hate saying it like this, like by default, he's been my choice right now. If the elections were tomorrow, I would vote for Benedito. I think that he's kind of played it conservatively. I think he hasn't said too much or pulled too many strings one way or another. I think that's his strategy. It seems like he's letting, very much like we've talked in previous shows, but let the fans who know him and then the fans who are starting to know him kind of take him as a fans president, not so much the money or the bankers president or the guys who have interest in Sporting from outside of Sporting, like the guys who would back Ricciardi, or the guys who maybe would back a Pedro Madeira Rodrigues, or a guy who would back like a Rui Jorge. I think Benedito's kind of played it conservatively. I think he'll conhece os cantos a casa. I think he knows it a little better even than a guy like Varandas, who's kind of really banking on that. But right now I'd vote for Benedito. I think he's been my pleasant surprise by default. And I say default because I really dislike, not that I dislike him per se as a guy running for presidency. I just don't think he's ready to be president. I don't think that he's in a position to be president. But with that being said, I really don't like anybody else. I think guys there like Rui Jorge and that other guy, Fernando, I think they automatically like, what are you guys even doing? It's like you guys had nothing to do and decided that you just wanted to show up on TV. Dias Ferreira has taken Sporting to Tribunal, I think more than once. I think that now he's just kind of doing the whole, there could be things I could be doing with my life, but why not jump in and try to be president? I think Pedro Madeira Rodrigues is running because he kind of has to. The fact that he's lost the previous elections and Bruno Carvalho's out, I think that he thinks that would make him an easy favorite. I think Varandas is really banking on the fact that he's like the clean-cut kind of, the perfect doctor, the guy who was there and witnessed everything and has the biggest pulse of the club. I can't stand Ricciardi completely. I can't stand him. I hope he gets humiliated when it comes time for elections. I think That would be the greatest show of strength from Sportinguistas. If we have to pick somebody, as long as he isn't picked, I think that would be a good first step towards righting the ship, to move away from that kind of thought process of political power, if you will, or banking power. So yeah, I have to go with Benedito. Just because he's the best out of those guys in my view, and the least controversial, the one that maybe because we know the least about in terms of what he can do politically for the team, but what he can do in terms of modalidades. I think he really embraces that, the fact that he was capitão and everything, had all that success in futsal. That'd be my take, man. It really would. It's a hard one though.
Yeah, I know. Sounds good, man. Patrick, your turn.
To me, I'm torn between Varandas and Benedito, and anything outside of that is I'm just not interested in at all. But to tell the truth, I haven't been like really impressed by any of the candidates in the same way that, for example, back in 2013 and 2011, when Bruno Carvalho came onto the scene, lots of fans, including me, knew instantly, right, this is the guy that I want to take Sporting forward from this moment onwards. And I haven't really coupled myself with any of the candidates just yet in the current situation. But for sure, I think the winner will eventually be Varandas or Benedito, barring any surprise or any mad tricks on the day. It's difficult for me to pick between the two, because one, I like Benedito. I like his character. I like what he represents, obviously, to the club, and how his project is really organic and it's just pure sporting. He's just focused on taking Sporting ahead. But whether he has the right team with bringing in guys like Andre Cruz, who obviously massive symbol of the club, but someone who isn't directly involved in football. Therefore, we don't know whether he has the capacity to really succeed at that level. And the same goes for someone like Peter Schmeichel, who's more of an ambassador for promotional things rather than actually getting involved in the nitty-gritty stuff of football. I just have doubts on that side of Benedito's campaign, whether he can really translate all that and cook it all up to be a successful team. And the same thing goes for Varandas. I like a lot of his ideas. His focus on the need for Sporting to be self-efficient and really invest in scouting, because essentially a club like Sporting is a selling club. And if you look at clubs around Europe that aren't the Real Madrids or the Barcelonas, you're looking at teams like Monaco, Borussia Dortmund, Sevilla. These teams are very intelligent and clinical with their signings, and that's how they survive, and that's how they have positive revenue. That's what teams like Benfica, Porto, Sporting, and teams like this have to do. We certainly have to do. We have to really focus on elements of our scouting to really push the club forward and clear some of our debts and remain competitive, or become competitive, shall I say, in Europe in the latter stages. And that's the bit from Varandas' campaign that really catches my eye. But then he does wear me out a little bit when he keeps banging on about how he's got 14 years of experience and all this and all that, and
11.
he knows,
11.
yeah, exactly. He knows how to run a club, and really, essentially you were just a club doctor and whatnot. And I don't know if that really is going to translate into you being president. And he's also got a few things about, instilling respect back into the academy, and how youth players must, clean up after the pro players and bring it back to the old school. I just don't think that's going to really stick with the youngsters nowadays.
No,
Football's very different, and it's not like Sporting's the last academy in the world. Players will just, some players are divas right from the off, and if we don't treat players well, if we don't play our cards right with certain characters, then we'll simply just lose those players. So it is an idea that's really good in some ways and potentially really problematic in other ways. So those are the doubts that I have between the two candidates. But definitely, for me, Bundito and Fernandes are the go-to guys for presidency in my eyes. I think Ricciardi, for me, is like the greatest villain of the scene, and everyone else after that, barring Dias, who I have a little bit of sympathy for, the other three candidates, no, they mean nothing to me really.
Okay, so Danny, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what was just said. I think in my eyes as well, I think it's definitely down to Varandas and Benedito. I'm still unsure. I think I know I know what way I'm leaning towards, but I'm just still unsure about it. Like Patrick just said, it's not like in 2011 or more importantly for me, 2013, when I really started taking into account these things and looking at elections and listening to guys like Bruno Carvalho, who obviously has no one has really taken me right from the off and have sold me on their project or their ideas. I feel like some more than others, but almost every program is flawed. A guy who surprised me maybe was Rui Rego. I didn't know much of the guy. I think he has decent ideas. I listened to every debate except today, I think it was, or yesterday, between Ricciardi and Varanda. But Rego sort of surprised me in a sense. I'm not 100% sold on Roberto Carlos being this mastermind of direct certain things that he said in debates, along with other things, have made me realize that he's not the complete thing that he was. PMR is still to listen to, I think. And yeah, Ricciardi is the only one that I think scares me the most, because I think that he has Varandas kind of scares me as well, but I think Ricciardi, he has too much of an old and too much support from it. He said sports isn't down to an exact science, and we shouldn't be so scientific with how we go about doing our business and stuff like that. And it scares the living crap out of me hearing that, because look at the best teams in the world and they treat this like a science. Their moves are calculated for the most part. Ricciardi seems like a guy who wants to instill fear within our sausage, and I'm fearful that a lot of people are gonna listen to that and take his word for it, when clearly that's not the case. Because if our financial difficulties, Ricciardi's been explaining them by, we wouldn't be making buys, because we still are, especially guys like Nani, who I love to have here, but who are on high wages. And then as well as there wouldn't be 7 candidates. There would be 1 or 2. Anyways, that's just the guy who's I'm leaning towards João Benedito, just because he says things that I identify with. He talks about Sporting in the same way I would, the same way I think Sporting should head. He's definitely a guy who will keep the investment on the Modalidades high. He's not a guy who looks at Modalidades as a waste of money, as reports have been coming out in Portugal saying we've wasted. I think it was 10 million on Modalidades. It's not a waste, especially if we're winning.
Ridiculous.
If we're losing, maybe that's a waste, but we're winning. So
they said 5 million.
I mean,
exactly,
guy, just off of that, like,
to say that's a waste is a joke.
Yeah, dude, but we've wasted millions across the main soccer team for 16 years and we can't win shit. So I hate people who say that about the Modalidades.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm a guy that bleeds Modalidades. I am all about Modalidades. So I would rather lose 10 millions and be champion of handball or competins,
Yes, sir.
voleibol e futsal, and then our soccer team, it's been 16 years without winning. We won a Taça da Cerveja, Taça da Liga, which means nothing. But I'll give my 2 cents. For me, it's Bendit. Actually, I already voted for him. My father got the ballots. He retired in Portugal. He lives in Ilha, Aveiro, and he got the ballots. So he called me and said, "Hey, filho, já tenho aqui para votar. Qual é que tu queres?" And the funny thing is, he only gave me 2 options. This is what he said. This is what my father said. É o Benedito ou Dias Ferreira? And then I said, e os outros? Os outros não valem merda nenhuma. Okay. So then I said, o Benedito. So my vote, it's good for 2 votes. Depending on how long you've been at Sporting, then you get more votes.
Yep, I still have mine to put in too.
Yeah, so I already voted for him. It's on the way, and my father voted for him. So there's 4 votes from Família Teixeira Sportingista. So Benedito all the way, and it's easy for me. Benedito was a player for Sporting, was always a Sportingista, the captain of Sporting, knows all about o balneário do Sporting, knows... I don't know if you guys had the chance to listen to him on Sporting160, Sporting 160, com o João Castro e com o Zé. But if you didn't, I would advise you guys. You all understand Portuguese, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So go to, I think it's episode 76 or 77, if I'm not mistaken. And then listen to it, and you'll see how much this guy knows about everything. You know, he was a futsal player, the goalie, the captain. He won several Taças Portugal, Portuguese championships, and he knows about finances. He runs his own company with his father. It's a family business. And the more you listen to him, you'll be more convinced that this guy is the person that should be the president. Varandas doesn't convince me. He left the team when the ship was sinking. I'm a strong believer that you stick with your guns. You stay until the end. You don't leave the ship. He reminded me of João Moutinho when he left the Football Club Porto and he was our captain. Same shit. There's no difference really. I don't want a president that when things get tough, he might split on us. That's not who I want. So Varanda doesn't convince me at all, not even a little bit. O Ricardo is all about money, quer taxa, esse filho da puta. He's not good for Sporting. Dias Ferreira, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's a lawyer, very successful. He's been involved with Sporting for 40 years. He was the president of the MAG. He was dirigente Sporting. He bleeds and breathes Sporting. He's emotional. I agree with Patrick because I was just chatting with him on Twitter, on the DM. But I think he would be a good president. But I would rather have somebody young with a lot of years in front of him, full of steam, that can knows how to talk to players, know how to talk to coaches, and then knows how to talk in public. The most important thing is you're representing Sporting Club Portugal. You need to know how to talk in front of cameras. You can be just... I love Bruno Carvalho. I voted for him. I wish he was our president now, but he's the one who digged his own grave. Nobody else. He was too much, on TV, all over the place, shooting at everybody. And that's why he's out of Sporting now. But if I could have a president now, of course, it would be Bruno Carvalho. But because of his own fault, he's no longer there. So Bundito all the way, and I hope he's the president. We'll find out on the 9th, because usually after everybody votes, usually the election is over like around 10 p.m., which will be Portuguese time on the 8th. And then on the 9th, and then madrugada, like at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, that's when
they announced Bruno last time. I stayed up waiting.
Yeah, me too. Well, for us, it wasn't that late. It was like 10 p.m. or something. But in Portugal, it was like 3 in the morning or something.
And I don't know if you were planning on touching up with this even a little bit, but I was curious to get, because you weren't on last week, so I was curious to get your take on it. But We obviously have the proceso against Bruno Carvalho. They're trying to, essentially get rid of him. Expulsar ele do sócio, completely eradicate him from the club. And it's making me sadder more than angry. At first I was angry, now I'm sad, because now to me it just seems like that's going to be the end of him. You know what I mean? Like his legacy, everything that we did or he did for the club, and that's the last thing people.
Hello?
What your take would be on that? Because I know you've been vocal about him a little bit.
Well, Bruno Carvalho, I voted for him last time. Like most of the socios do Sporting voted for him last time. There's a change when we lost against Atletico Madrid. Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's when he turned and was sending text messages to the players. I'm not gonna go in detail because I don't know all of it. Like speculation. I'm not a big fan of talking shit without knowing the facts. But anyway, you could see from that time on, he kind of exploded. His interviews on TV tripled. And sometimes that's not a good thing. Sometimes when you're constantly attacking A, B, C, D, E, F, G, not only Benfica, it was also people from Sporting, including on Facebook, a guy like me. Hey, Bruno Carvalho, you suck. You would answer to me. I think that was a bit too much. You, the president of a world-class soccer team, football team, so you have to know when to filter certain things. He didn't know how to do it. I don't know what happened. He became a totally different person. From his demeanor changed, his persona changed, and that's what killed him. So and this rule of kicking him out as socio, he's the one who came up with it. You guys know that.
Yeah, he started doing it to other people.
Yeah, he's the one who actually brought it up, no Assembleia Geral, and it was approved. Because maybe he had the intention to kick some socios out. Should they kick him out? No, I'm against that. I'm totally against that. But should Bruno Carvalho, give it a rest? He should. Me personally, I think he should regroup his troops, and then let these guys go for elections, and then whoever wins, and then 4 years from now, then he can go again for elections. He needs to break, this guy. His family is sick of it too. Daughters.
I think isn't he now almost going through another divorce from the most recent one?
That's what they're saying. I'm not sure about that.
That's what they say. Yeah. Well, of course, they've been saying shit about him for months and pretty much his whole time there.
Exactly. Surprise. They saying litígio com a esposa. I don't know for sure, so I'm not going to say I know because I don't know. But if he is going through a divorce, I wouldn't be surprised because it's a lot of pressure. I mean, it's something that only shows you that everything he's done so far, it's been exhausting to his family and himself. He had a breakdown, this guy. So
Bruno Carvalho doesn't know how to go anything other than 150 miles per hour.
He has to slow down. Now, the most important thing, o Sporting Portugal, we have the season already begun. We have Modalities already kicking in full gear to their leagues, championships. So he has to regroup, stop this, and then 4 years from now, he goes again up for elections, stronger than ever with a good team, and I'm pretty sure he'll win again. But now to make so much noise, it's not good for Sporting. I mean, to me, it's not. I'm not saying that Sousa Sintra is the solution because it's not.
No.
But pretty soon we're gonna have a new president, so let's give this guy a fair shot because whoever wins these elections will have a really, really tough job ahead of him. A lot of issues to resolve. Another issue came up, which was the last coach that was fired. And now he's claiming that Sporting owes him money.
And the biggest reason why I brought this up, obviously, this is going to be one of the hottest topics until election and possibly even past election, depending on what happens to him. But I had some friends who didn't have an opportunity. They're not on Twitter to ask their questions, and I believe they're listening in or will be. So I just wanted to make sure we gave our 2 cents a little bit on Bruno Carvalho's current situation. But I think it's at the point, like I said at the beginning, where I was angry. Now I'm sad, and I'm sad because ele fez a sua própria cama. At the end of the day, he could have clearly, and I think what I read a lot amongst Sportinguistas, like removing the fans that hate him. I'm talking about everybody else, whether you love him or are irrelevant towards him at this point. I think that everybody agrees or has a general understanding that if he had chosen to step down, like everybody was doing around him, and I understand, like you mentioned at the beginning here of this topic, you said, you're the last one. The captain is the last one to abandonar o barco. But I think in his situation, the fact that he refused and the fact that he continued to hold on to that hope that everybody else around him would also hold on, I think just made his own bed, and now he has to lie in it. I think we could have clearly been in a situation now where there would have been 8 candidates. He would have been running, and he very much would have swept everybody else. And
I agree.
In my opinion, he would have dominated this election if he had chosen to let go sooner.
He should have gone when after the attack on the academy. That's when he should have said, "Vou rescindir como presidente." Then his vice president would have kicked in, and then they would have said, "Okay, we'll go for election on the 8th of September," because this was back in June. So, and then he would have had the opportunity to run for president again. So,
and this is without all of these guys like Marta Suarez and everybody having this personal agenda against him.
Got it. Exactly. He would have had still his entire team, Conselho Diretivo, in place. O Carlos Vieira, all of them. And he could have saved his face, and he could have run for elections now. He blew that. He said no. Now he's trying to cancel the AG, the Destituição of the 23rd of June, com uma providência cautelar. What he got.
When is that due, by the way? When is that decision coming up? Should that be soon?
So this is what happened. He requested to cancel the Destituição de 23 de junho. The providência cautelar was approved. So then the court gave Sporting SAD until the 21st of August to answer to the cautelar, and then they answered back. So now they have everything they need, the court, the judge. So now it's up to them to say, okay, we heard the reasons of the ex-president of Bruno Carvalho. We heard the response and the reasons why he shouldn't be the president of Sporting from Sporting SAD. They said if he comes back, vai ser prejuízo de todo tamanho. We're going to lose a lot of money. So then, I don't know when he'll come out, but it should be coming out soon. I don't think he'll go in favor of Bruno Carvalho, but you never know. You never know. He could.
To be honest with you, part of me wants, and I don't know if the other two guys want to chime in on this a little bit, but part of me kind of wants, obviously, it to go in his favor, just a big curveball. I know that in the immediate, it would not be good for Sporting in terms of the season's already been going. We're trying to right the ship and start a new era. But at the same time, just the fact that we all have our strong opinions on o Conselho de Gestão and the Marta Suarez, and Sousa Sintra, and all these guys, and the fact that at the end of the day, he very well could be eradicated from Sporting, and these guys could be, still standing tall. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Even if that means that Bruno Carvalho isn't present, because at this point I really don't care if he isn't. I would love for him to have still been. But the fact that Marta Suarez and Sousa Sintra, and I keep forgetting the other guy's name.
Ricardo Rego, o Tavares.
Yeah, but it's not even those guys. I'm talking about os três that were at the Benfica game. Sousa Sintra, Marta Suarez, e o que é presidente do Conselho.
O Torres.
Exactly. Like those guys, man, I keep getting this bad feeling that they just know too much in terms of real truths at Sporting, and that they're just too powerful for Bruno Trabalho, and he's fighting them by himself. He has no team, no supporters really besides like fans, but most sócios don't speak up for him. And it just cheira mal, man. Cheira esturro, cheira like something just doesn't cook right, and that's what's worrying me. That's what scares me.
Well, that's why I want the elections to be over with. Let's move on. Let's get our new president, novo conselho diretivo, uma mag nova, new people that now will know they stick around for 4 years. They'll be serious about it. Clean up, the team. Invest in the modalities because handball today look awful. I'll just mention a couple things about handball. I don't want to take too long because it's close to 2 hours, but we need to invest in our modalities. The two players we have centrais in handball, they awful. They look old as shit. But anyway, I have 3 questions from our fans. So I'm going to start with Patrick. Yeah. This one is from at SALINISMO1. Salinismo1. He's one of our followers, one of our fans. He's asking, how long until Diaby should be introduced into the squad, and how should he be used?
Yeah, tricky one. I think perhaps for what Sporting already has, we've got good options on the flanks. I think the the best use we can get out of him is probably as a striker. I don't think he's going to come straight into the first team. I think Peseiro has his idea of going 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, and that's the way I think he'll stick. That's what he'll stick with. So I think Diaby is probably someone who might come off the bench for someone like Bastos. When teams overcommit against us, we've got someone quick who can exploit the space on the counter attack, or maybe someone who can try play 4-4-2 with when we're chasing a game and whatnot. Other than that, I think he's going to be mainly a backup to Dost. Dost is the main man, isn't he? He's the star striker. He's the one who we battled so hard to bring back. So I think we go 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, and that means Diaby as a striker, given that we've got so many options already on the flanks. That means Diaby is going to, in my opinion, be a player who comes off the bench more often than not.
Sounds good. Danny?
I think he had to step out, but he said he had some sort of family emergency. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for telling me. Nando, your thoughts on how we've started the season. This is from Chip, one of our followers too. Whether we can truly challenge for the title and what Peseiro needs to change in order to do so.
Well, I'll start off with how I think we're doing to start the season. I think that it's been a pleasant first 3 games overall, 2 wins and a draw. Looking into the fact that we already played Benfica at their stadium and came away with a draw, 7 points. In terms of how we're playing, I think that we could do much better. I think that the first half of Benfica game is a good stepping stone, a good way to hopefully see Sporting grow and go forward from there. In terms of what Peseiro can do and what we need, or how, or if we can really compete for the championship, I don't think we can. I say that with using my head, not my heart. I'm trying to use my head. I'm hoping this year becomes exactly like the 99-2000 championship team, where everything just kind of fell into place. We made some very, very specific signings right around Christmas. I think it was Mapensa, Cesar Prats, or those kind of guys that came in and helped. I think that team needs it. I think if Peseiro can keep this team afloat, and when I mean afloat is like at no point any more than 5 points back from first place, preferably less than 5. I'm hoping 3, because you got to remember, we play at Porto to end the season. So with that being said, if we can remain no more than 3 points out of the first place, there's a very good chance that we could be going into that last game of the season competing for the title against one of our competitors. I think if Peseiro keeps the team afloat till Christmas, which tends to be Sporting's big angustia, where Sporting just kind of falls apart and makes poor decisions, or we're doing well
Weakness.
till then. Yeah, we're doing well till then, and then we start to stumble out the gate starting the second half of the season. I think if Peseiro can keep us together till then, afloat, no more than 3 to 5 points back, I think we can go into that Christmas break really looking to maybe make a push and some more solid investment, and then anything can happen. But in terms of obviously Sporting. We want to say that Sporting's always in the running to be champion. But given everything that's happened, given the turmoil surrounding everything that's happened, the election, the different mentality could be coming into place on September 8th, we very well might not even be talking about Peseiro. We could be talking about a different coach, a different mindset, a different strategy. So with that being said, my brain says, no, it's unlikely that we're going to be competing for the title. My heart says, obviously, yes, we will. But it's very important that we make it to Christmas still within striking distance.
Sounds good. Patrick, last question from our Bruno, Bruno Mensch, that today couldn't be with us. Is it time for Bruno Gaspar to be inserted into the starting 11? How would you guys rate Peseiro's tactics?
It's a difficult one because I think Ristowski has done quite well at right back. I know he's not the most refined of defenders. He's better going forwards than he is going backwards at times. But yeah, I expect it to be really healthy between Ristowski and Bruno Gaspar, who are two players that perhaps they're quite evenly matched for each other in terms of competing for the same spot. To be honest with you, I think that's one area that I don't mind who starts, because I know we know what we're going to get with Ristowski. He's someone who works really hard, and he's got a good attitude, and from that you can only expect good things more often than not. And Bruno Gaspar is a defender who at Guimarães 2 seasons ago did very well, but we have to be obviously very cautious with his progression into the team, because Fiorentina he didn't get the most minutes. So to find his feet again and to feel confident also will take a little bit of time, and he is playing for a much bigger team in Portugal this time around as well. So with time I can certainly see Bruno Gaspar competing and perhaps taking the spot of right back for himself. But for now, at least looking at our very next game, to me, I'm still holding on to Ristowski. In terms of Peseiro's tactics, how would I rate it? Obviously, to be honest, it's not been too impressive. I haven't been impressed by what Peseiro's been able to do. But then again, you do have to factor in how problematic pre-season has been, and he is trying to drum in his idea, his ethos, without certain players that would perhaps facilitate that. We talk about Sporting's need for a creative midfielder from deep in the absence of William, and we've only just got one now in the form of Nemanja Gudeli, and he's someone who, even coming into the team, he's not someone who's played many games of late out in China, so he'll take a little bit of time to adapt and get his fitness back. So it has been troublesome for Peseiro to really lay out his plans, but obviously there are certain tweaks that he could do, in my opinion, like play Vendel a little bit more. Rafinha, who showed how good he is against Benfica, perhaps he should have started one or two more games than he has done, and Acuna at left back is a switch that I think would suit Sporting quite well, with Jefferson struggling in that position. So I can throw a bit of sympathy Peseiro's way, but generally I think he could be doing a lot better than what he has done so far.
Sounds good. Okay, guys. So we basically at the end of our show. I'm just going to talk about the our modalities that we had quite a few important games, important finals. So from our ladies, some good news. Both of our American ladies were called for their national team, the USA, Caroline Baldwin and Sharon. So congrats to them. Well deserved. They've been playing phenomenal football in the lady squad. Um, in beach volleyball, Kibinho and Roberto Reis, two of our players, they became champions of uh, of the Portuguese Championship in beach volleyball, 2-on-2. Our futsal team won against the Brazilian team Magnus Futsal 4-2, and that was on Saturday. And today they won again 4-2 against Inter Movistar, which we all know they won the last two championships of Spain and the two last champions leagues of futsal, which we lost against them in the final. But today we won the prestigious cup, Masters Cup. Finally, the first cup was won by Inter Movistar 2 years ago, and last year was Barcelona, and finally a Portuguese team has won that cup. So it was a great game. I watched the game on TVI 24. It was a phenomenal game. We played really well. So we have a good team. I think we'll have a good chance of winning the championship of Portugal for 3 years in a row, and again reach the final of the Champions League in futsal, of course. Under 23, our team won 3-0 against Feirense. Under 19, our team won 2-0 against Marítimo. Under 15, we won 6-0 against Alverca. Ladies beach football, we won 6-1 against Estoril, becoming champion of Portugal. Men's side beach football, we lost 5-2 against Braga. They have a better team than us. They've won for the second year in a row, and they also won the European Cup for 2 years in a row, Braga. So they got us this time. For the Super Cup of handball, we lost against Benfica 29-24. They played better than us. They were leading from the get go and then never let go of the lead. So we lost against them. Um, our U17, we won away at Caldas de Rainha 1-0. And basically, that's all I have for the modalities. On Monday, please give a listen to Sporting160. They have another great guest, which will be Tomás Cunha from Jornal Sporting. This guy bleeds and breeds Sporting. He's a great guest. Tune in at 16:30 U.S. and Canada's time, 9:30 p.m. in Portuguese time. So again, Sporting160 on Monday, which is tomorrow, with the guest Tomás Cunha. On Tuesday, we're gonna have how can I call this, a fusion between us and a Benfiquista podcast, which is As Águias. Uh, Three great ladies. They know a lot about their club. We're gonna team up together. We're gonna have a mega podcast, As Águias with Sporting 160EN. We're gonna have three Sportinguistas from our side, three Benfiquistas from their side, and the mediator will be my good friend Bruno. He's neutral, a Portista, and he'll be the mediator, and he'll be controlling the show. So again, Tuesday, tune in, 8 p.m. in the United States, 1 o'clock in the morning in Europe. I'm sorry, guys, it's so late. But and that's it. That'll be a good one. So that's all I got for today. Nando, do you have anything else?
No, man, I think today is just another example of a lot of sportingismo, a lot of love for the club. And like always, I had a lot of fun.
Great. Patrick, any last words?
Yeah, it's just to echo Nando's words. Always a great experience to share opinions on our sporting and what we think is right, what we think is wrong, and still lots of important events to come in the coming weeks. So we look forward to that and see how the future pans out for our club.
Exactly. And talking about that, the under 23 will play on Tuesday against Benfica. So that should be an interesting game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So without any further delays, Viva Sporting and vote for Bundit. Okay,
Yeah,
Viva
dude.
Sporting.
Anybody but Ricciardi or T. Richie, whatever they want to call him, man. Vivo Sport.
Okay, guys. Later.
Have
Peace.
a good night.
Viva Sporting.